Probably a little bit of the sign of the times with Lacock. So I suppose in the old days when there were blacksmiths and butchers in the village, there was nowhere else, no big supermarkets or anything where people could buy, so they would buy just from their local shop, wouldn't they? Whereas now we're a little bit at the mercy of whether it's raining and a coach doesn't come into the village. It's a new world, isn't it, in that respect? So I think probably a lot of the businesses in the village that have survived have been ones that are more diverse and do more than one thing. So within this building we have downstairs is quintessentially a soap shop, and we still make soaps because I'm quite passionate about artisan crafts. And then ironically upstairs is high-tech computers, working on Apple Macs and doing state-of-the-art websites and social media. So it is literally both ends of the spectrum.
My father acquired the use of bits of pasture all round the parish, and he would walk the cows to the different bits of pasture when he needed a fresh piece. They used to go to Arnold's Mill, they used to go to the top of Cantax Hill, they even used to go to some people's gardens in the village, and they would happily graze. We had these metal stakes with a rope, and they were tied to that, and they'd just eat round in a circle all day.
The first shop, which is now the bakery, was a Mrs. Shop Taylor, and a bit further along was Julia Alford. She sold everything: paraffin, shag tobacco, which she cut with a knife, and you had to make sure that when you went in again, you didn't ask for butter, because she didn't wash the knife, and she was so short-sighted. The stuff that must have been pinched from that shop. A bit further round where the oldie shoppy is, there was a Mrs. Thorogood, and she had a little cafe, and I can remember her tablecloths were green check.
My legal name is David McDowell, but my biological name is Churchill. My grandfather was the Prime Minister. I'm Winston Churchill's grandson. But my father was Winston Churchill's illegitimate son. When I initially came here, I came here as a potter. Things have changed over the last 30 years. It was possible to make a living as a potter. Because of globalisation and marketing, it's very difficult to make a living as a potter. So, although it was always known as Lacock Pottery, my wife does a bed and breakfast business, and I help her in that, and we can make a living out of that.
And of course, when we were kids, the cows still had horns on them. They seemed to be a little bit more aggressive, whether it's because they were tied up a lot of the time. I always remember one cow, she was called Countess. We were petrified of this cow, and she was determined to get us, and we'd always have to look round the corner. If this Countess was there, we'd just go anywhere near her. The other interesting thing about Bowden Hill is that it's common ground. We had all the grazing rights for the common, and so we used to just sort of let the cows out the farm, and cows would walk up the hill or down the hill. In those days, of course, there weren't the cars, and all the houses that were connected to the common, they had gates. Nowadays it's rather different because they have driveways, and in fact there are notices still there to say that the cows, we could actually still turn our cows out there because the cows have right of way over the traffic. Wouldn't go down very well. I mean, we used to walk them up the hill until way into the 80s.
Of course, the other thing was he had a lot of horses. They had 3 or 4 horses on each place. And I can just remember us having 2 horses, a black one and a white one, Blackbird and Snowball. They used to be hitched onto the cart. They used to take the mangles round cows. But in those days, they relied very heavily on the horse.
Mr. Gillett on the cart would say, "Do you want to ride, Missy?" And so I'd get heaved up. But I used to get a lift up on the wagon and ploddle down there. Then, of course, you had the ducks and the geese in the village, which didn't really bother me, but they did leave a bit of a mess. But I used to like the cows because there's dozens and dozens of cows would come from Mr. Newman's. My mum used to go absolutely mad because we didn't always have gates that shut on our big lawn, and if the cows were going back out past our house, they would go round the petrol pumps and quite often onto the front lawn. And of course, if you chase a cow, it jumps about and thinks it's fun. And it made these great big pock marks in the lawn. And my mother used to scream if the cows would come by, "Get out on the lawn, get out on the lawn, stop those cows, stop those cows." It doesn't matter how old I was, I still had to go to stop the cows. Oh, we had fun with those blinking cows.